Hi everybody. This is going to be a quick tutorial. We're going to run through a lot of slides and we're going to show you a lot of code. And maybe you cannot grasp everything at once, but don't worry. We have an example in GitHub and we're going to provide you a QR code at the end. So this is Flo.
That's me.
And I'm Alex. And this is us in our very productive work environment at Neuster Mobile Solutions, which is located in Bremen. That's why we have a German accent. But let's talk AR.
So for those of you who are not familiar with AR, I hope everyone has an idea. But we try to provide you an example so you will understand. And that is the following. So for augmented reality, maybe you want to try a toilet seat on your toilet before you buy it and see if it fits. So for everyone who does not know what augmented reality is.
Quite a use case.
Yes, that's right. So the question is, how can we do augmented reality on mobile? And we mainly have two platforms that we have to cover, which is iOS on the one side, and then we have Android on the other side. And both of them have their own framework for developing augmented reality apps. So we have ARKit on iOS side and AR Core on Android side. And we are here for Flutter. And one reason why we love Flutter is because it allows us to write one code base for all the platforms. So if we want to build it this way, we have to write Swift code and we have to write Kotlin code, and then we have 3 languages again. So that's not what we want, so what can we do? And the solution is Unity. Because Unity is all the same, why should we develop for both of them? And they built a framework called RA Foundation, which is the wrapper around both of them. And you can build one augmented reality app with one single code base. So our talk is about how can we connect both of them. So
FluttAR, or as we call it, FluttAR. So we're obviously talking pirates here. And what do pirates do in their spare time? They play Battleship. So it's going to be Battleship for pirates here. Because pirates, they need to train their aim, and they want to train without destroying their own ships, and they have this mighty cannons, and they're dangerous. So we want them to provide a real-life thing, so somewhat of an AR app. And since pirates have Android and other pirates have iOS, we needed a Flutter.
obviously, right?
Obviously. I mean, so what we want to have is a map. We're going to take a map of Bremen, and we want to point with our smartphone onto that and see a 3x3 grid where we can shoot on the enemy and hopefully hit him turn by turn. And also we want to see where our ship is located. Cool. So let's get started. In the beginning, you need to install couple of things. So you need a Unity Hub, and then you can open up Unity Hub, install Unity, which is going to take a couple of minutes. In this slide, it's faster. And then you can create a new project. And there you can choose the AR template, give it a name, and you're done. We have a Unity project. Easy peasy. Next thing is to create a Flutter project. And then the important part is to add the Flutter Unity widget, which glues everything together in between those two projects. Simple, huh?
Oh, Alex, so that's that simple?
Yeah,
That's all?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, we can have a look into the documentation, and it says here installation, blah blah blah. You just add the okay. There's some setup here, so let's look at that. So okay, you need. I forgot about the NDK. And maybe a couple of more stuff. Let me. Oh wait! Oh, holy moly! Are you? Oh shoot! Okay, so it's not that easy, but the gist of it is you're gonna have a Unity plugin that you're gonna add to your Unity project. Then you need to do some configuration on the Android side and some configuration on the iOS side, and afterwards everything builds. It's a bit tedious, but if you're done, you're done.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's done,
Yeah.
then we can start coding. So let's jump into some code. And the first thing that we want to do is that we want to display our game board on the map. So that's a bit simple. So for that, we jump into Unity. And the question is, how can we do that? And for this, we get help from our little matey in the crow's nest, which is the AR tracked image manager. And we just display it here. They're sitting there up there looking around. So that's the AR tracked image manager. And the idea is, if the map somehow comes into our AR scene, our matey says, "Land ahoy," and informs us. So that's what we want to do. So how can we do this? In Unity. And so we can start. For the purpose of this demonstration, we just create here a game object. And on the right side, this is the important part, we add a component and add the AR tracked image manager. And there we have it. So it's done.
Simple.
But we have to tell them, or we have to tell the manager or matey what to look for. And this again is simple, somewhat. So here we have to create a reference image library, which is a very complex name for just a list of images. So we create that, and then we take our image, put it into our Unity scene, drag and drop, takes a second. So there we have it. Then we open our map or reference image library and say, add an image, and we drag and drop that. And in theory, we can add more images, but for the purpose of this, it's only one. And then we specify the size of the image in real life to make it easy for matey to find our image. So, cool. Can we use it now? And the answer is yes. And we want to place our game board in our AR scene. So we create a new script here, a new manager for managing our board, which is called board manager. So, and now we can start coding here. And when we open that script that we just created, it first looks something like this. And probably no one knows C# and no one knows Unity. That's, but I tried to do some Flutter references. So the start method is similar to the init state method that we know from Flutter. So it's called once at the start. And then we have the update method, which is called repeatedly over and over again, which we know from the build method in Flutter. So that's the both parts that we have here. And for the purpose of this talk, we just need the start method here. And we say what we need and what we want to work with, which is the AR tracked image manager, our matey, and we need to get the board that we want to display. So, so that we can get it, now we have our script. We can link some references here, so the AR tracked image manager. And because we do not have a game board yet, we just create a game object here. This can be anything. And we can link it here. So now we have access in our code to our AR tracked image manager and to our game board. And we can use that. So we call on the AR tracked image manager, we add a listener, which is called land ahoy. So every time something changes, this method is called. And then we just take a look. If there is a new map found or new image found, then we just take that and then we instantiate our board on the position where we found the map. And there we go. Now we can display our game board.
Almost. We're talking here about Flutter, and we want to add this scene into Flutter. So we have to do some Flutter stuff here. And obviously we need a widget because everything is a widget. We're going to start with a stateful widget, or to be more precise, with the state of that widget. And you have this beautiful placeholder, which is beautiful, but it's kind of useless. So we're going to swap that with a Unity widget and give it the required parameter, which is called onUnityCreated, which we're going to ignore for now. The next step is, well, actually there is no next step. We're done. We can build and run. We can compile in Unity and display everything. Or if you're one of the cool kids, you can use this handy command. You can also use it in the CI/CD and compile your Unity project and then Flutter on your app. Voila. We can see our grid is displayed on the map. It's really that simple because the Flutter Unity widget does everything from the linking and knows which is the default scene in our Unity project and will load this scene and start this scene. So after this tedious configuration part, this part is really easy.
Great. So, I mean, now we have the game ready, right? We can see the map, and we cannot do anything yet. So something is missing. And that's our interaction. And what we want to do in the Battleship game is we want to aim and we want to shoot. So we jump into Unity again and ask the same question again. So how can we do that? And the solution for this is raycast. And this sounds very complicated.
Science.
Yeah, but we try to keep it simple. So the idea is that we shoot some beams from our phone into the AR scene, and if we hit an object, we get a reference to the object. So if we click in our AR scene, we find the tile of the game board that we clicked. That's the idea, and that we will use in a second. So we want to aim and shoot, so we create our cannonball manager. That's the right name, I hope. And if we have some kind of touch happening, so that's how you do it, then we call a function, and you can pronounce this very well.
Aim for the sake of the Jolly Roger.
So that is our function that we will call to get coordinates that we clicked on of the game board. And then if we clicked something, otherwise it's now the coordinates, then we call
shoot, you bloody scurvy dogs.
So that's the idea. We aim and then we shoot. So let's take a look at the aim method for a second, and that's where the raycast come into play. We try to get here some camera component, and then we call a magical function, which is called screen point array. So we use the X and Y position of our touch and somehow get a raycast. So that's the big benefit of Unity. They do it for us. We don't have to know how it works, and I don't want to know how it works. It just works. Then we do some raycast sitting, and if we find some coordinates, we return them. Otherwise, we return none. And then comes the shooting part, and it's boring here in Unity because we just create a JSON object, pass in our X and Y coordinates, and we use the Unity Message Manager. That's the one responsible for communication between Unity and Flutter, to pass that information to Flutter, where hopefully all the magic happens.
Exactly. So this is provided by the Unity plugin that we added in beforehand. And back in Flutter, we want to receive that message. So in our code, we're going to add another method, and we're going to receive the command from the quarterdeck, but it's sadly some dynamic gibberish. But I know Flo doesn't code any wrong things, so I'm just going to decode that into JSON and going to get my gunner up and say, yo ho ho, fire in the hole. So let's shoot. Awesome, it just works. From there on, we need to calculate whether we hit or miss. And pirates are notorious cheaters. So we cannot trust them, and we have to do that on the server. But this is a talk about Flutter and AR, and it's not about server, but we did it with server part, which is kind of cool. So we're going to skip this part and go to the final part, which is rendering whether we were hit or whether the opponent missed. So we're going to stay in Flutter for a moment. And back to our code, let's focus on the method that we skipped earlier. In this method, we can react, and we have a controller where we can communicate with the Flutter scene, the Unity scene. And you remember this little matey in the crow's nest? He's not only looking for a map, he's also looking for any incoming cannonballs. So he provides us with a stream of incoming cannonballs. And if we see one, we want to tell the quarterdeck that something is happening. So we're going to use the post.json method, which asks us to give it a game object and the method we want to call, and the message itself. And obviously, we're going to call the board, and we're going to say something like, shiver me timbers, cannonball incoming.
So that's the method. that Alex wants to call on our board, but if you take a look at the code, we only have the tiles yet, and we do not have the method. So we added the name again.
Shiver me timbers. Yeah, cannonball incoming.
That's good. And we get the JSON as a string, and what we do is we parse this, similar to Flutter, get the X and Y coordinates and whether it is a hit or not. And then we have to call the method. Should I try it myself? Let's inspect me, oh gallon. So we take a look whether our ship is hit and or the field that is hit. And the code is not very spectacular again, because we were lazy. We put our tiles in a list and not in a grid. That would be better accessible, but that's how we get the right tile now for X and Y coordinates. And then we say if it's a hit, it's the red color, otherwise it's the blue color. And then we get the renderer object of our game board, and we just add the new color in. We're done. So that's the game.
Easy. So that's more or less it. Let's have some final thoughts. We used hot reload, and we love that, and it's so easy to develop for Flutter. That's why we're here. And you will see it's a bit inferior when you work with Unity, because it's all again about compiling, waiting for it to compile, deploying it on your device, and testing is hard. Everything is kind of tedious then again. And it's another language to master. So it's not everything Dart, and it's not everything Flutter. It is Dart and C#, and it's not only C#, you also have to learn about Unity, about its core concepts, you have to learn what a mono behavior is, and so forth and so on. And also, maybe you have to pay for it. As an individual, it's free. If you have a company, it depends on the revenue stream that you get. So it may be costly, but it doesn't necessarily need. But still, Unity is fun, and Unity is powerful. You can do lots of things with it. And I hope our talk was a small inspiration and a couple of first steps to provide you some input to try it out for your own. But enough talking now. Send me some scallywag I can send down the deep.
So we see Alex is ready. So we need someone who can fight him. And here we go. We have So that's the introduction of both fighters. So let's see the app in action and let's see a real fight.
Yeah. So, thanks. Thanks, of course, for the authors and contributors to the Flutter Unity widget package, which is awesome and which helps us a lot. Thanks also to the colleagues who helped us to prepare this talk. And of course, thank you for listening.